Okay, so next we will be doing price determination in a market. D'accord? So avant de continuer de procéder further, we need to understand what is meant by a market. So what is a market? So a market can be anything. It can be online, it can be an offline place. Okay, it is a place where buyers and sellers meet. So market refers, any types of market, it refers to a place where buyers and sellers meet and exchange goods and services. So this is what we mean by a market. Maintenant, ici, c'est important de savoir la différence. What is buyers? Buyers, c'est nous, les gens qui consomment. We are also known as the consumers. Whereas the sellers, they could be the producers. D'accord? Donc là, whenever we talk about sellers, we're talking about buyers or consumers. Nous, en tant que consommateurs, we demand products. C'est-à-dire, we want some product. We have the willingness to and the ability to buy. This is what is termed as demand. And then, as producers, they will supply the product. This is how we have the concept of demand and supply in economics. Donc, c'est ça qu'on va partir faire là, demand and supply individuellement, et puis on va faire le law of demand, law of supply, etc. D'accord? Donc, demand, this is demand. Why do we have the concept of demand? This is the need of consumers and buyers. We demand products, we demand goods and services. Now, on va faire demand avant. What is the definition of demand? Demand, it is the willingness. Demand is the willingness and ability to buy goods and services at a given price over a given period of time. This is demand. Okay, donc demand is not only very important. Demand is not only wanting a good. I just want a good, I am unable to pay for it. So demand is not only wanting a good or a service, but I have to be able to pay also. It has to be backed by the ability to pay also. Donc such demand, c'est-à-dire any demand which is backed by the ability to pay, veut dire that person should be able to afford to buy the product also. Donc such demand, we call that, is known as effective demand. Very important. Such demand is known as effective demand. Maintenant là, we need to understand, okay, what influences the demand. Donc, qu'est-ce à faire pour, en tant que consumer, quelle affaire capable influence, okay, capable change demand for a product for customers. Donc, one of the main factors of demand, we say that the price, okay, has a big influence on demand. D'accord? Donc, factors influencing demand. Factors influencing demand. So the first one is the price of the good itself. Price of the good itself. D'accord? Veut dire, anytime the price increases or decreases, it will have an impact on the demand. Donc, we say that when price increases, donc what happened, donc quand prix and produit augmenté, ok, ça c'est un petit peu logique. Nous en tant que consumers, quand prix and produit augmenté, nous put demand less of that product, so that when price increases, quantity demanded of that product will fall. D'accord, il peut diminuer. Quantity demanded of that product will fall because it is now more expensive. Donc, quantity demanded of that product will fall. D'accord? On the contrary, le contraire, qu'est-ce qui va se passer? On the contrary, when price decreases, ou bien when price falls, when price decreases, donc maintenant que c'est moins cher, we will demand more of that product. So when price decreases, quantity demanded will increase. D'accord? Donc là, we have an inverse relationship. When price increases, quantity demanded falls, and when price decreases, quantity demanded will increase. D'accord? So this is how we determine the demand when price of the product changes. D'accord? You can take the screenshot and then we continue. Okay. So here, the factor of price of the goods, c'est ça qui donne nous the law of demand. Ok? Donc, from the above factor, c'est-à-dire from the price of factors of price of the good, from the above factor, we obtain the law of demand. The law of demand. So the law of demand states that consumers or buyers will increase the quantity demanded of a good at a lower price, c'est-à-dire when price decreases, they will demand more when price decreases, but will buy less of that good, but will buy less of that good when prices increase. D'accord? Then we say all other factors remaining constant, veut dire les autres factors remaining unchanged. Une autre façon d'écrire ça, it is ceteris paribus. C'est-à-dire, en d'autres mots, ça veut dire que all other factors remaining unchanged. D'accord? So this is what we mean by the law of demand. In other words, we can even say that, we can even imply that there exists an inverse relationship, there exists an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This is how we get the downward sloping demand curve between price and quantity demanded. D'accord? Donc this is the law of demand and we can represent it by the demand curve which is downward sloping. So the demand curve, the law of demand can be represented, the law of demand can be represented in a demand schedule as shown below. D'accord? Allez, prenez ça et puis on va faire le diagram of the demand curve. Okay, you can take a picture or a screenshot, whichever you find better. And then we continue. Okay, let's do the demand schedule. Donc, let's take, for instance, the price of chocolate, and for instance, we have the quantity. So when you be 25, here we will have 10 chocolate bars, for example. The price is 30, so it will tend to decrease as the price increases. When the prices increase to 35, the quantity will be 6 bars of chocolate. 40 rupees or $40, it will be 4 bars. Okay, so this shows that as prices are increasing, the quantity is decreasing, giving rise to the downward sloping demand curve. So here we have the quantity, for example, and here we have the price of the goods. So this is the demand curve. You can label it by putting the D here at the beginning and at the end. So the demand curve is downward sloping. The demand curve is downward sloping. It illustrates the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Okay, so this is the graph, this is the diagram of the demand curve. Now we will show how changes in prices will affect the demand curve. Okay, so you can take this and then we move on. Okay, so now how the changes in price will affect the demand curve or points on the demand curve. Changes in price of the good. Okay, so a change in the price of the good will cause a movement along the demand curve. Donc now I will show you how do we show that movement along the demand curve. It will cause a movement along the demand curve. So for example, if now this is my demand curve, this is my XY plane. Always label your graph whenever you are doing it. Quantity demanded, and then you have the price. Here you have your demand curve, your initial demand curve. It's only quantity, hein? Allez. So now, là on va expliquer comment on peut causer un movement along the demand curve as a result of a change in the price of the good. Là, par exemple, we are at point A. As a consumer, we are demanding Q of the goods and the price is P. D'accord? Maintenant, là, on me dit the price augmente, le prix augmente from P to P1. Then it will become here. Okay, so when the price increases to P1, we say that here we have a new point B and the quantity will change to, for example, it will change to Q1. So here we can see that from the graph, when the price increases from P to P1, the quantity decreases from Q to Q1. Donc là, on a bougé, on était sur le point A. As a result of the increase in price, we are moving on the point B. D'accord? Le contraire maintenant, if we are at P, at point A initially, and the price decreases to P2, so if it decreases to P2, it will be here now. The new point will be it will be approximately here. So let's call it point C. And we will have the corresponding quantity, which is Q2 par exemple. Donc là, on peut voir que quand le prix descend, quand le prix baisse from P to P2, the quantity will increase from Q to Q2. So the movement from A to B ou bien A to C as a result of changes in price, this is what we call the movement along the demand curve. D'accord? We are not changing demand curve, on est sur le même demand curve, mais le point, this changes. D'accord? So, for example, as the price increases from P to P1, there is a movement. On appelle ça, quand il y a en haut, on appelle ça upward movement. From A to B, quand ça part au bas, A to C, we call that a downward movement. Okay, so this is A to B is an upward movement. A to B is an upward movement and A to C is a downward movement. So there is a movement upwards along the demand curve. Donc since price has increased, this will cause quantity to decrease, causing quantity demanded to decrease from Q to Q1. Okay, similarly, in a similar way maintenant, seulement le contraire. As the price falls from P to P2, there is a downward movement. Donc ça descend, as you can see from the diagram, there's a downward movement. Okay, there's a downward movement along the demand curve. There's a downward movement along the demand curve, causing quantity demanded to increase from Q to Q2. Voilà. D'accord, donc this is how the demand, there will be a change along the demand curve quand le prix change. Now we will look at other factors influencing demand. These are known as the conditions or determinants of demand. D'accord? Donc prenez ça and then we move on to the conditions of demand. Okay. So the other factors influencing demand, other factors influencing demand other than the price of the product, other than the price of the product, are known as, how do we call that, are known as the other factors, we call that the conditions of demand, are known as the conditions of demand. Oops. Known as the conditions of demand. Okay, so next we will go into the conditions of demand. So this you have already taken. Okay. Donc là, the conditions of demand, the conditions of demand are likely to cause a shift. They will cause a shift in the demand curve. So là, on va prendre les exemples. The shift in demand curve. The shift in demand curve can, and shift, it can be to the left or to the right. So the shift in demand curve can be either to the right or to the left. So I will show you how do we draw the shift in demand curve. So here you have your axes, here you have your quantity, and the y-axis you have your prices. This is your original demand curve, it's D. Donc là, when we have a shift, so when demand, we say that demand is increasing, it will shift to the right. So when it shifts to the right, ça va être perpendicular to the right. We have D1. D'accord? This we call the it has shift to the right, ou bien rightward shift. Donc, quand nous disons qu'il y a une rightward shift, a rightward shift implies an increasing demand. Le contraire, quand ça part côté gauche, from D2 par exemple, on appelle ça leftward shift. A leftward shift implies a falling demand. Maintenant, we will go and see what are the several factors that could imply a fall in demand or an increase in demand. So we have several factors influencing demand. Donc là, we have to look at that. Determinants of demand. So first determinant, we have the level of income. The level of income. Okay? So, bien sûr, more people have money, more they will demand. So the more income they have, the more they will demand, and the lesser income that they have, the lesser they will demand products. Okay, so as consumers' disposable income as consumer disposable income increases, okay, the ability to buy will increase. The ability to buy will increase, okay. Hence, demand for many products will increase. Demand for many products will increase, causing the demand to shift to the right. Causing the demand to shift to the right. D'accord? This is the first one. When demand increases. Maintenant, le contraire, bien sûr. When disposable income falls. When the disposable income falls, the ability to buy will definitely decrease. Will decrease. Donc, demand will decrease, and then the demand curve will shift to the left. Hence, since the demand of the consumer will fall, the demand will shift to the demand curve will shift to the left. Donc ça c'est, this is quite logical, okay? So a person, the level of income that he has, if that income increases, that person definitely will able to buy more. Donc la personne est capable d'acheter plus. Donc ça, bien sûr, the demand, il peut envie demand more products, causing the demand curve to increase and to shift to the right. Ça c'est premier partie. Maintenant le contraire, quand ce income il diminue, okay, as a result of recession, or bien he has lost his job, or whichever reasons, that his income falls. Now what happened? The ability to buy, his ability to buy will fall. Therefore, the demand for that consumer will fall. Then the demand curve will therefore shift to the left. This is the first conditions of demand, which is the level of income or the level of disposable income. Disposable income, c'est quoi? C'est the income which is available for spending. Veut dire income que la personne a eu, retirer tout ban les autres dépenses, such as income tax, for example. And then, quand nous retirons tout ça ban petites dépenses là, we get the disposable income. Here, whenever I'm talking about the disposable income, this is the income available for spending. Okay, this is the income available for spending. So next condition, okay, you can take it and then we continue. So the next conditions of demand, say prices of other related goods. The prices of other related goods. Donc related goods, c'est quoi? Which are related to the goods that we are referring to. There can be two types of goods related. We have the price of substitutes and complements. Substitutes and complements. Donc on va prendre un par un. Substitutes What is a substitute? So a substitute is a good that can replace another. D'accord? That can replace another, and they are in competition. So they are in competitive demand. Okay, they are in competitive demand. Consumer will either buy one good or the other. They cannot buy both. So consumers will either buy one good or the other. Example, let's take the case of soft drinks. You either drink Coca-Cola or Pepsi. You cannot take both at the same time, or you can either travel by the tram or the Metro Express or by bus. You cannot travel by both. So this is what we mean by substitute goods. These are known as substitutes. Now, for example, if the price of one substitute good increase, consumer will buy more of the other types of good. Let's take the case of two goods. For example, if good X and Y are substitutes, c'est-à-dire they are in competitive demand, nous ne sommes pas capables de consommer tous les deux, either we consume X or Y. If, for example, goods X and Y are substitutes, what? If the price of X increases, quantity demanded of X will definitely fall. And donc si le prix de X a augmenté, what will happen? People will not consume X but will consume more of Y and will consume more of Y. Therefore, what will happen? The quantity demanded for of good Y will increase. So that demand for Y will shift to the right. This is the relation. Let's take an example, par exemple. Donc, le prix de Coca-Cola augmente. Le prix de Coca-Cola augmente. Donc, les gens vont diminuer la consommation de Coca-Cola. And what will happen? They will tend to consume more of Pepsi. So, here we can say that an increase in the price of Coca-Cola. Okay, so an increase in the price of Coca-Cola will cause an increase in the quantity demanded for Pepsi. So here we can say that if, for example, if again X and Y are substitutes, if price of Y decreases, the demand for X will also decrease. If price of X, if price of Y même, so if price of X increases, so what happens? Demand for the price of Y increases, the demand for X will also increase. D'accord? So this is the price of the relation between substitutes. Donc let's take the example here. Donc again, nous reprenons à l'exemple de Coca-Cola, Pepsi. If price of Coca-Cola increases, so what happened? Price of Coca-Cola is increasing. People will demand less of Coca-Cola, but that of Pepsi will increase. So when price of Coca-Cola increases, the quantity for Pepsi, the demand for Pepsi will increase. So this is the relation between substitutes. Maintenant, le contraire de substitutes, we have complement. Donc, complement, they are goods that are consumed together. So take this and then we move on to complement goods. Okay, so now we move on to complement goods. Complementary good. Is one that is consumed along with another. They are jointly demanded. Okay, example. No, these are goods which are together consumed. They are consumed all together and therefore they are jointly demanded. So, example, car and petrol. Okay, they are jointly. If you have a car which uses petrol, you cannot not use petrol. Donc, vous êtes obligé. You have copybook, for example, some examples, copybook and pen or pencil, whatever. So here we say that if price of one complement falls, consumers will buy more of the other. Complement. So let's take if x and y are complements. If x and y are complements, if price of y falls, demand for goods x will increase. If the price of y increases, the demand for good x will fall. So this is the relation between complement et tout à l'heure on avait fait substitutes. D'accord? Donc next factors which influence demand, we have the level of population in a country. The level of population. Okay, la quantité de personnes that live in a country. So definitely if the population size is increasing, the demand for many goods and services will increase. Donc demand for food, demand for housing, demand for education will increase. So if the population size increases, demand for many goods and services will increase. C'est-à-dire will shift to the demand curve. The demand for many products will shift to the right. Donc which type of products we are talking? For example, demand for housing will increase. People will need places to live. You will have demand for food. You also have demand for education, demand for healthcare. Donc, this is the size of the population. Now, if you're talking the structure of the population, donc la structure d'une population, c'est-à-dire what are the types of people who are living here? Whether we have more young people, whether we have more elderly people. Donc là, par exemple, let's take, for example, the context that there is a change in the population structure where we have more elderly people, more old people. So we don't say old people, we say the elderly. For example, if the population structure changes and there is an increase of n, we have an aging population where we have more elderly people. So what happens whenever you have an aging population? Demand for retirement homes will increase, for example. Then you have also demand for many products such as healthcare, medical insurance. There will be high demand for these types of products. So this is the level of population as well as the changes in population structure can influence demand. Next, we have the level of advertising. D'accord, les publicités, les marketing, tout ça. Donc, advertising, what do they try to do? They try to inform customers about the benefits of the goods. For instance, you have les publicités qu'on a à la télé ou bien même sur les réseaux sociaux, etc. Donc, ça a tendance à influencer les gens à acheter des produits, par exemple. So, any types of, whether it is cosmetic products or whichever food, advertising will tell you, for example, that the food contains lots of vitamins, lots of minerals. Some types of products will keep you fit, etc. So this is what we mean by advertising. The objective behind advertising is to influence consumers to buy product. Donc ça a tendance à vous persuader, okay, to persuade the consumers to buy the product. So here, the aim of advertising is an attempt to inform consumers about the benefit of the good or trying to persuade consumers to buy the product. Advertising, we have two main types of advertising. Advertising can either be informative or persuasive. This is what we mean by advertising. We have two types of advertising. Maintenant, if an advertising has been providing you with all the information and people are attracted by that, people feel that the advertising is a true one, then what happens? We say that the advertising campaign has been successful. So definitely, see, an advertising campaign is successful. This means that the consumer will definitely buy that goods. So we say that if the advertising is successful, then what will happen? The consumers will buy more of the good, and hence the demand for these types of goods will increase. D'accord? So for example, if an advertising campaign is successful, then consumers will buy more of the good and hence demand will increase. Voilà, this is the advertising as a factor which influences demand. Donc bien sûr, when demand will increase, it will definitely shift to the right. Next factors influencing demand, we can say climate. So we have different factors influencing demand. We have taste and preferences, fashion. So this is quite logical. It will depend on question. Don't take the screenshot of a picture, then we continue. So we also have other factors influencing demand, such as taste and preferences. Bien sûr, if a consumer prefer a good, then definitely, and if a good is fashionable, for example, okay, it is trendy, tout le monde est en train de mettre ça, tout le monde est en train de trouver ça intéressant, quoi que ce soit, then definitely demand for that product will increase. So taste and preference is a factor which influences demand. Fashion also is a factor which influences demand. Now we also have the climate, the climatic conditions. So for example, right now we are approaching the winter season in Mauritius, so definitely demand for products such as pullovers, I don't know, bed sheets, etc. The demand for these types of products will definitely increase. And we also have an increasing influenza season where many people are getting sick. So definitely demand for many medicines will increase. And then during summer season, we have demand for ice creams, ACs, coolers, fans. Demand for these products will tend to increase. In winter season, we have demand for other products such as, for example, hot drinks. Many people like to drink coffee during winter. So demand for these types of products will increase. So climate is a very important factor when influencing the level of demand of certain products. D'accord? Donc, climate definitely is a factor. Next factor we can say about, par exemple, on peut dire government regulations, for example. Donc, gouvernement, il y a des choses que le gouvernement peut faire. Par exemple, le gouvernement peut, par exemple, prohibit the consumption of some goods so that the demand will fall, or even encourage the consumption of certain types of goods by providing subsidies, etc. D'accord? Donc, les factors qui influencent demand, it varies depending on questions. Sometimes you have some application questions. For example, there's a demand for certain types of product. You cannot put anything in here. It has to apply by the product that is being asked. Bon, je pense qu'on a terminé avec demand. Now we move on to supply. Donc, supply, who supply the products? We have the producers who supply the product. So, definition of a supply, I will provide a definition of supply. It is the amount of good or service that producers, those responsible for supply, ce sont les producers, that producers are willing and able to supply or to offer for sale at a price over a given period of time. This is supply. D'accord? Donc, bien sûr, whenever we talk about the supply, pareil comme on a fait avec demand, we will talk about the relation between price and quantity supply. So, we say that we have the law of supply. So there exists a direct relationship. There exists a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. direct relationship. This means that when the price increases, the quantity supply will also increase, and when the price decreases, the quantity supply will also decrease. This is what we call the direct relationship between the price and quantity supply. Bien sûr, vous pouvez expliquer, vous ne pouvez pas mettre que the law of supply means that there exists a direct relationship. So we say that when price increases, the quantity supply will increase, and hence, whenever there's a fall in the price of the good, the quantity supply will fall, implying that there exists a direct relationship between price and quantity supply. So this is basically the law of supply. Now, pareil comme on a the demand schedule, we will also have the supply schedule. So the supply schedule will make us have an upward sloping supply curve. So the law of supply fait que we have an upward sloping supply curve. So this is the price, this is the quantity, and here you have your upward sloping supply curve. Okay, so it is upward sloping. This is due to the direct relation. So for example, if we have price here, we have P, Q, prices increases to P1, so quantity also will increase to Q1. As you can see, there is a direct and positive relationship between price and quantity supply. Donc pareil, whenever there are changes in prices, there will be a movement along the supply curve. Pareil comme on avait fait pour demand. Ok, donc prenez ça, and then we continue. Ok, prenez le screenshot et puis on bouge. So now factors influencing supply. So firstly we have the price of the good. D'accord? So the price of the good will cause a movement along the supply curve as the price of the good itself changes. So for example, the price of the good will cause a movement along the supply curve as the price of the good itself changes. The movement along the supply curve can be shown as follows. So here I have the quantity. The quantity, well, it is in terms of units, and here I have the price, which could be in terms of dollar or even rupees, whatever it is. So here I have the supply curve. I am currently supplying, as a producer, I am currently supplying at price P, offering quantity, supplying quantity Q. Now, whenever there's an increase in price from P to P1, for example, the quantity will increase to Q1. Donc là, on peut dire that there is a movement upwards along the supply curve from A to B. So initially, you can see, you always start by explaining initially what is the position. Initially, price is at P and quantity supplied is at, price is at P and quantity supply is at Q. If price increases to P1, the quantity supply increases to Q1 and there is an upward movement from point A to B along the supply curve. So here, j'avais oublié de dire tout à l'heure, whenever we have an upward movement, we call that an extension. Ok, donc ici, whenever we have an upward movement along the supply curve, on appelle ça an extension in supply. Et le contraire, on appelle ça a contraction. So I can write it. Upward movement in supply. On appelle ça extension of supply with extension in supply. If there would have been a downward movement in supply, then we would have talked about the contraction of supply. For demand, it will be the same. Whenever there is a downward movement in demand, contraction of demand, upward movement in demand, extension of demand. It's the same thing. C'est juste ce qui change, c'est demand, supply. That thing. D'accord? So here you can see that there's an upward movement from A to B. Donc if there would have been a downward movement, donc l'explication would have been more or less the same. Par exemple, vous allez dire, if price decreases to P2, the quantity supply will also decrease to P2, to Q2, and there will be a downward movement from point A to point C, for example, along the supply curve. D'accord? You have to explain the diagram and show the examiner that you understand what the question is asking you to do. Now, other factors of supply, we have the cost of production. So the first factor was the price of the good. Now we will talk about the cost of production. So for a producer, an increase in his cost of production will cause his supply to decrease because he will have much more cost to pay. So when cost of production increases, there will be a decrease in supply. C'est-à-dire supply will shift to the left. Just as demand, here any other factors other than price will cause a shift along the supply curve. Price, we have seen that it causes a movement. Changes in price will cause a movement along the supply curve. Any other factors will cause a shift. It can be to the left or it can be to the right. Donc là, when the cost of production increases, demand will shift to the left. And if cost of production decreases, the supply will increase. Or we also say that, you can say that it will shift to the right. D'accord? So this is the cost of production. Now we also have several other factors. For example, the level of technology. With more technology, a producer can produce more, so that the supply curve will shift to the right. Supply will increase. So here we have the level of technology. Donc avec les technologies plus avancées, plus sophistiquées, on peut produire plus. Donc definitely, as technology increases, as the level of technology increases, supply will increase and shift to the right. So quatrième, we also have the weather conditions. For example, let's take the context of goods such as vegetables, etc. Donc whenever we have poor weather conditions, bad weather in the form of cyclones, floods, torrential rains, etc. So it will harm the harvest of these products, so that the supply will tend to shift to the left. whenever you have bad weather condition, this will affect your agricultural products. So as producers, they will tend to reduce the supply. So we also have weather conditions. Now, poor weather conditions will definitely reduce the supply for many agricultural products. So this was a bit on supply, weather conditions. Okay, so you can take that and then we continue. Let's write this part. Therefore, supply will decrease and shift to the left. Okay, so then take it and then we move on. So I will show you how we can explain the how can we show the supply curve, shifts in supply curve. Donc shift it can be to the left, to the or to the right. Pareil comme un petit peu pareil comme demand. Donc apart of these 4 factors influencing supply, we have other factors. For example, government policy, etc. If the tax increases, producers will be discouraged to produce. Okay, so that the supply will decrease. So these are some ways that supply can be affected. So next you can show the shift in supply curve are shown below. Donc pareil comme demand, supply curve can either shift to the right or to the left. So if we have this is the supply curve quantity, this is the price. So supply curve, initially it will be at S. Donc maintenant when you have a shift to the right, oh this is I just did that of the demand. Okay, donc là from S to S1, donc here we can see that the supply curve is shifting to the left. So here we can see that it is shifting to the left, and then donc shift to the left bien sûr veut dire que supply is decreasing, and from S to S2 shift to the right, from S to S2. Voilà. So this is how we determine the shiftings along the supply curve. Voilà. And then definitely when the demand and supply meet is known as equilibrium in the market, this will be done in another video. D'accord? Donc pour aujourd'hui on a fait un petit peu market economy, mixed economy, etc. Et puis on a fait allocation of resources in the economic systems, and then we have introduced price determination in the market. Donc here we have done the supply curve and the and the demand curve and the several factors influencing each, demand and supply. On a expliqué the movement and the shift, etc. Maintenant, when demand and supply meet, it is known as the equilibrium in the market. Donc, small explanation on equilibrium in the market. Equilibrium in a market. So, when the supply and the demand meet, for example, here you will have the quantity. Here you will have the price. This is the demand. This is the supply. When it meets here, we call that the equilibrium. It is the point E. You will have the equilibrium quantity and the equilibrium price. This is how prices are determined in a market. C'est-à-dire, ici, qu'est-ce qu'on est en train de dire? The price that consumers are willing to buy or the exact price that producers are willing to sell. This is how we buy. This is how we have the equilibrium. Donc, the situation where the amount that consumers are willing to buy is equal to the amount, pas que the amount, it's also the price, the amount and price that producers are planning to sell. This is what is known as the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. Voilà.